Hey everybody, watch this review here with a look at one of my favorite superheroes, Spider-Man 2099 from it's either Marvel Legend or Spiderman Classic. I'm never quite sure which. Wikipedia lists it as a classic, but it is the KB exclusive Spider-Man 2099, which is a repaint of another Spider-Man, I assume, just from the way that the hands are fixed. Spider-Man of the future, or the future equivalent actually, did not need to do that to activate his spinnerets, and he didn't even make that pose generally. Bought him loose for $12 including shipping and handling, which is an okay price for it. Unfortunately, it's loose in every sense of the word. The joints are really, really loose, so it doesn't stand. That's the one big problem I have with it. Other big problem is there's a little bit of dust collected that I need to get rid of at some point, but had this guy for a while, just kept meaning to review him, but I mean, there's just so much I could say about this character. For people not familiar with Spider-Man 2099, let me first move that thing back. Right, for people not familiar with Spider-Man 2099, the Spider-Man in this alternate future, which follows some great superhero cataclysm, is a guy named Miguel O'Hara, who, like the original Spider-Man, is a genius, and except for in this instance, he actually orchestrated his own, I guess, transformation. He worked for a company called Alchemex, and in the future, a lot of companies will get their employees hooked on drugs to encourage employee retention. And each of the drugs, of course, will be specific to that one company, so they can't go anywhere else for their fix. Now, he thought he was addicted to Rapture, which was the drug of choice for Alchemex. Definite religious undertone with the, or overtone with the choice of the word Rapture, just because that's prominent in Christian religion. But he sets up this whole big experiment, and he's going to test it on himself when, one of his fellow scientists ends up goofing up the whole procedure, and there's an explosion, and he realizes he's gained powers. These powers include the ability to walk on walls up and down through use of talons that would appear on his hands. His suit's made of unstable molecular fabric, so when his claws extend, which these little talon things will pop out, look like thorns, which allow him to climb, and he can actually use them to fight, which he doesn't do very often, but he does end up... No, I don't want to spoil that. But it'll compensate for it, so the material won't rip or anything. Costume choice is, unlike a lot of the superheroes where they make their own costumes and stuff, this is just a Death's Head costume that he had from this one trip down to Mexico with his brother. Or, actually, I won't spoil that either, but they went down to Mexico before the start of the series, and he brought back this Halloween costume, so the brother automatically realizes that Miguel O'Hara is Spider-Man. By the way, his friends call him Miggy, but you can call him Miguel. I love this guy. He had a ton of attitude, unlike the original Peter Parker, who I thought at times was pretty tame. He'd basically mouth off to everybody. Cloth cape here. Really cheap cloth. But as I've been fiddling around with him, you'll notice that he has a point of articulation here on each hand, which allows him to make the traditional Spider-Man thing, but he didn't do that at all. He just would hold out his hands and he'd curve it like this to activate his spinnerets, which are actually grown organically on him, so he can produce his own webbing of his arms. Also, he also has teeth that can inject venom, which he does on one or two occasions. Not a huge plot point, but I thought it was pretty neat. By the way, to date there have only been 3 or 4 different Spider-Man 2099 figures, each one just a repaint of another Spider-Man. Once for the Marvel Origins line, which has a nicer color scheme. It's a dark blue. But I think the pose is sort of rigid, plus the big thing I wanted was the ab/torso, the upper torso/ab/diaphragm joint, which is pretty cool with agile characters having that extra point of articulation, because they can do all sorts of crazy stuff like Matrix-like moves. You can duck bullets. Look at that. Bullet ducking power. And of course, they had several renditions of him for the animated series line, which actually was released several times, probably just the same figure with different repaints. Sometimes in 2-packs, sometimes single packs, sometimes with crazy accessories, most times without. But heads moves by some sort of a peg. It'll only move side to side. We'll do an exorcist move if you want it to, but I'm always worried about somehow tearing this because the majority of loose figures don't have the fox webbing on him, which is actually part of the costume, believe it or not. It allowed him to catch like drafts and stuff. I don't question it too much. Let's see. Ball joint shoulder can do the full 360 around. Will go out a good amount. As you can see, the wrists do move up and down. Double joints on both knees and elbows. That's why I think he's more of a Marvel Legend than a Spider-Man Classic, because Spider-Man Classics generally didn't have a huge amount of articulation. I guess even the Marvel Legends in the beginning didn't have a huge amount either, but I don't know what the later Spider-Man Classics were, so maybe he was. I just go by what Wikipedia tells me. Wikipedia told me he's a classic, but and because it's loose, I can't vouch for it. Ab/diaphragm joint can go back a lot, but I don't think it should go back this far, because you can see the actual interior joint. Waist will do a full 360 if you want it to. The calves will twist. That's another reason why I can't stand well, because the calf joint's just so loose at this point. This is a lot tighter, but this lower one here, it also moves. He has the toe joint and the ankle joint. Now you can pose him in some cool looking ways, but my figure just won't stand at all. Like, wham, he's shooting webbing. It's actually one of the cooler aspects of Spider-Man. He just assumes all sorts of crazy poses, then attacks. Let me think. I mean, Spider-Man 2099 had a lot of villain equivalents from his modern counterpart. These included the primary one, I guess, antagonist was probably Vulture, who would continually appear, and he was part of a gang. Well, he led a gang, and he, of course, was a cannibal, and he was able to shoot little barbarators out, but Venom also ends up appearing with a secret identity and everything. Goblin appears towards the end, as opposed to just the Green Goblin. No Glider just has some sort of magical abilities. One of the other big reasons I like the whole Spider-Man thing was, I mean, it's only 46 issues long for the main series, because the 2099 series didn't last very long. I own 32 of them, I think, and some of the annuals, so it's one of the few comics where I actually own a considerable number of. I mean, I have like 30 issues of the Wolverine imprint back during the, I think, late 90s, but early 90s maybe. I don't know, overall, I do like this figure just because for the character he represents and for the general sculpts, but the actual articulation in terms of looseness and so forth is a big problem, but I can't blame that on the figure because I did buy it loose. Makes any sense? I mean, if it means anything, this is probably the best Spider-Man 2099 on market right now. Actually, I can pretty much say without a doubt, in terms of just general aspects, it probably is the best, because I believe I remember seeing that the other Spider-Man, the Origins one, had trouble just standing straight, but I don't know, you can do a lot with him. He's got just standard Marvel Legends articulation. And, you know, fun-looking figure. I like Spider-Man 2099. He's a bit costly, though, at this point. I think he's going to run 20s or 30s, up to 50 or 60 for new sealed. But you can probably pick him up a lot cheaper than that, because although he's rare, there's not a huge demand for him. Now, ironically, a week after I bought the loose, I noticed that the sealed on sale from think it was Boondock maybe, but on eBay, which I could have got it for about the same price sealed, which I wish I had just waited a month or so and gotten that version, but good figure. See you next time.